Beneath the floor of Westminster Abbey, something moved, not loudly, just a faint pop, a soft hiss, as if the tomb itself was breathing. And for a moment, the living world paused, because inside that coffin, buried beneath centuries of stone and silence, was not peace, not grace, not the grand dignity you'd expect for a queen. What was inside was swelling, warped, pressurized, rotting. This wasn't just any queen, this was Elizabeth I, Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, the woman who ruled an empire, crushed kings, and feared nothing but what came after death. And what came next was everything she'd tried to prevent. For 44 years, Elizabeth Tudor reigned as more than a monarch. She was myth in living flesh. The daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, born into scandal, surrounded by enemies, she was never meant to wear the crown. But she rose, alone, unmarried, untouchable. They called her Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, the unshakable spine of an empire. She faced down assassination plots, religious wars, and the greatest naval force the world had ever seen. The Spanish Armada came for her, and she shattered it. Poets adored her, enemies feared her, even her silence could shift politics and power. But Elizabeth's greatest obsession wasn't power, it was legacy. How history would remember her, how the world would see her after death. Behind the elaborate gowns and the powdered mask, she was terrified. Not of dying, but of what death would do to her body. Of being dissected, cut open, turned from monarch to corpse. So she made one final command. Let no blade touch me. Let me meet God whole. But death doesn't keep promises, especially not royal ones. On the 24th of March, 1603, the most powerful woman in England fell silent. Elizabeth I, who had outlasted assassins, traitors, and tyrants, now faced the only enemy no monarch could conquer, time. But even in her final hours, scots, he fought. Not for her crown, not for her people, but for her body. She whispered her last request. Do not open me. Do not cut me. I want to meet my maker whole. To Elizabeth, the body was sacred. The last mask of royalty, the last thing she could control. She had seen what happened to rulers after death. How noble corpses were sliced, gutted, stuffed with herbs, drained like animals. She knew how even a queen could be reduced to a smell, a spectacle, a warning. And she feared it more than anything. But when she died, her word died with her. The crown passed, the court moved on. And her body, tabau, now just a body, was surrendered to the hands of men with knives and cloth. In a cold chamber beneath the palace, surgeons opened her chest, removed her heart, the heart of a queen who had never married, never knelt, never broken. Her liver, stomach, and intestines followed. In their place, they packed spices, resin, cinnamon, and myrrh, not out of reverence, but out of fear. Because if they didn't act fast, the Virgin Queen would rot before her own funeral. The queen was gone, but her body still held power and danger. After embalming, Elizabeth was wrapped in crimson velvet, stitched with Tudor roses, a symbol of royal dignity, even in death. But inside her body, nature was stirring. No herb, no spice, no velvet shroud could stop it, because the embalming was incomplete, not rushed, but inadequate for what lay ahead. Her body was sealed in a heavy, lead-lined coffin, not for splendor, for containment. Royal funerals were long, theatrical affairs. Days, sometimes weeks, before a monarch was buried. And in that time, decomposition worked quietly and violently. As Elizabeth's body decayed, gases built pressure. Her abdomen swelled. Her skin began to bubble beneath the velvet. Inside her, a silent storm. Historians say that without the lead coffin, the pressure could have caused her corpse to rupture. Imagine it, a funeral barge gliding down the Thames, thousands of mourners dressed in black. And then, a sound, a rupture, a terrible smell, a queen, exposed. It had happened before, coffins bursting open, royal remains splattered across marble altars. So, they packed hers tight, sealed the lid, prayed the lead would hold. As the barge carried her body beneath London's gray sky, some reported a strange scent, sweet, foul, inescapable, the smell of death wrapped in perfume. But the lead held just enough. Elizabeth was buried in Westminster Abbey, beneath a marble effigy that promised peace. But the coffin wasn't still. It wasn't silent. It was waiting. For nearly 3 centuries, the Queen slept undisturbed. Beneath the sacred stones of Westminster Abbey, Elizabeth the Gloriana rested in royal silence. Above her, tourists passed, choirs sang, monarchs came and went. But in 1869, her tomb was disturbed, not by thieves, not by enemies, but by history itself. Dean Arthur Stanley, the man entrusted with preserving the abbey, was granted a rare privilege to open and examine the royal crypts hidden deep beneath the cathedral. Armed with only a lantern and centuries of curiosity, he descended into the cold undercroft, where England's kings and queens lay in rows of stone and lead. The air was thick, still, unbreathable. He approached the vault, marked with 2 simple letters, E.R., Elizabeth Regina. What he found inside was a ruin, Elizabeth's coffin, once a masterpiece of velvet, gilding, and ceremonial pride, was now sagging in on itself. The wood had crumbled, the once rich fabric had faded to gray, and the lead casing, it had buckled, warped under centuries of pressure and rot. Inside, her remains were barely distinguishable from dust, but the shock didn't end there. Above Elizabeth was another coffin, another queen, Mary, her half-sister, her bitter rival, the woman she had once tried to erase from England's memory. In life, their conflict had plunged the nation into fire and blood, but in death, they were entombed together, stacked in the same vault, locked in an eternal silence neither of them would have chosen. 2 queens, 2 enemies, now neighbors forever. Dean Stanley said the air around them felt thick with decay. The velvet was stained. The lead was split. The bones of a dynasty were crumbling before his eyes. This was no tomb of glory. It was a decaying secret, hidden beneath one of Britain's most visited sanctuaries. And it had waited centuries to be seen. Westminster Abbey echoes with beauty, stained glass, ancient hymns, polished marble. It promises eternity. But under those stones lies a different truth, not one of triumph, but of silence, decay, fragility. Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, the woman who faced down empires and rewrote her nation's destiny, now rests in a broken coffin, velvet faded, wood dissolved, her bones tangled with those of the sister who once sought her crown. This is the final message of Gloriana, that no matter how powerful, how divine, how untouchable we may seem in life, we are all claimed by the same quiet end. Time does not kneel for queens. It does not honor thrones or obey crowns. It corrodes lead, devours silk, and silences bloodlines. And yet, in that dark vault, something endures, not her body, but her story. The Tudor rose, still embroidered in decayed velvet. The initials, E.R., still faint on warped lead. A whisper of her, in cloth, in dust, in legend. Because while time may claim the flesh, stories survive the grave. Elizabeth ruled a world that did not expect her to last. She defied every limit placed upon her. And now, even in death, her crumbling coffin draws pilgrims, historians, dreamers, all chasing the ghost of a queen who refused to be forgotten, and maybe, that's her final triumph. Not gold, not war, not empire, but memory. The Virgin Queen lies in ruins, but her legend is immortal.